Bless all the paths our feet walk to be free. Bless all the paths our feet walk to be free.
So about 32 years ago, I was in the Navy. I was about 18, 19 years old. I was stationed in Orlando, transient barracks, because I was on my way up to the Great Lakes for my next duty station. And I had the mid-watch, which is from 12 at night to 4 in the morning. And I was the roving patrol. I was going to protect everyone while they were sleeping. And that's what my job was, to rove the barracks outside. Round and round and round, in 4 hours you go round and round and round. And I have my nightstick or my billy club, I have my duty belt, I have no gun on me because we're safe in the moment, although there's some watch stations that would require a gun. But this one just required my body, my presence, my nightstick, and my UCMJ, which is the Universal Code of Military Justice, which gives me all the roles and the what to do's and what not to do's while standing watch for the United States Navy.
Yes, sir.
Protecting everybody. And I'm walking my rounds, and on this side of me, on the right side of me, is a building from like over 500 yards, all barracks. But on the left side of me is buildings facing this way. So as I'm walking at night, in the dark, all by myself, with no fear at all, because I was the watch. The watch can't be afraid. He's protecting the people, right? No fear can be in anybody who's protecting the people. Well, as I'm walking and walking and walking, in each new building, there'd be an alleyway. Still the one building on my right the entire time, until I crossed the threshold of that building on my left, and the street light down the alley immediately cast the light on me, which threw a shadow on the wall right beside me and scared the crap out of me. Because it was instantaneous. The moment I stepped past the threshold of that left building and the light hit me from the side, the shadow was seen in my peripheral view, and yes, I jumped. Because out of the solid brick wall was a goblin coming to get me that day. And I thought, geez, Mark, you really are afraid of your own shadow, aren't you? But that was 32 years ago, before I even knew what metaphysical was, before I knew what self-awareness was, before I knew looking in, before I knew anything, actually. I knew nothing. I was just walking around in fear. And I thought to myself, wow, as life grew and more terminology came to me about what life was and those inner selves that those roommates and the cast members or whatnot, that I was really afraid of my shadow side. Because in my shadow side lived the yuckiest parts of me. I was a good person. I believed in Jesus. I wanted to go be a priest, so I must be holy, right? I can have no fear of shadow in me. Yet Solomon gave us a prayer a long time ago that says, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thou could be the light. And this walk in this earth dance is the valley of the shadow of death. And I got to remember that I'm simply just walking in the valley sometimes. Now, I'm 50 this year, and I've had 50 years of dealing with this mind. All of us have had, however many years, we are walking the planet, dealing with the wonderful, wonderful minds within us. My daughter, who's got headphones on right now, I just checked, which is cool, has got an 8-year-old mind. And she's just starting now to deal with the craziest thoughts inside of us. Can you put that poem up there for me? Primal scream, primal fear, the shadow side of me is near. Evil thought, terror, and fright, remember the shadow is cast from the light. Own the wolf, own the dove, own the shadow, and you will own the love. Let's start with the very first line. Primal scream, primal fear, the shadow side of me is near. Long, 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 long ago, we didn't really have the intellect we had. We operated on a fight or flight mechanism, and we were just starting to figure stuff out. Like the wheel, fire. Well, I think fire came first. But before all of that, we were running from stuff all the time. Tigers, things like that. things that were going to get us. We had hooked up in us a primal fear that was our operating system. We did not have an intellect online developed enough yet to deal with how to figure crap out. So we ran from it or we killed it. That was the mechanism that was set up in our body, and it is a survival mechanism. It is needed to be there. If it wasn't there, the human race would not exist, because we would have died off. Survival of the fittest. We see evolution, We can go on and on about that, but what we're talking about is simply the primal part of ourselves. The part of ourselves that started off as a protection mechanism only to keep us walking around on the planet. Sometime I was going to be attacked. I needed to know how to fight back. I needed to know how to use the brawn that Spirit gave me before I even knew what Spirit was. I didn't have a language. I didn't have any way of communicating truly how I felt. So I lived on a fight or flight mechanism. Every single human being that ever walked the planet at those times, this is how they lived. But we're lucky. We developed our intellect. So we were able to make fears that didn't even exist be real in our bodies. So we have developed such a strong mental capacity that we can create an illusion so well to scare the crap out of ourselves and think a tiger's chasing us, and yet have no way to expend the adrenaline and all the chemicals that get produced in our body when we're being chased by a tiger. And unless someone here has been chased by a tiger, raise their hands. D.
I'll work on that.
If it's in your yard, I'm not visiting anymore. But it's that part of us that learned how to stay on the planet, and it learned how to survive, and it's a good thing, and we're here now. Now, millenniums have passed by, but this shadow side of us sits with us. And so many times we're afraid of those thoughts. Back to Rose for a second. She comes up to us recently and tells me some really scary, yucky thoughts she's got inside of her about people, and just, the craziest thoughts we can ever have. If you can think it, it's been done by a human being. Let's not fool ourselves. Now, we may stand in a different place in our hearts, but there's some people that haven't been able to have that light shining within them, and they act out their shadow side. But thinking a thought is simply a thought. And I had to explain to my child that the thoughts she was thinking weren't bad thoughts, because of the fact that she was crying and had a heart that was saying, why am I thinking this? I could never do that to another person. I said, that's the difference, sweetie. The heart. The action is one thing, the thought is another. And she asked me if I ever had thoughts like that. I said, sure, I was a kid. I've had thoughts like, I could just push that person out the street right now. Where does that come from? And she goes, well, that's not really that bad. It's a little mean. Maybe I'm like, oh yeah? What if a bus was coming? And she's like, damn. Without saying it that way. She's like, Dad, you could go there? He's not all puppies and rainbows? Like, yeah, I am in my heart. But I have to acknowledge that those thoughts exist. Because if I don't acknowledge them, they will own me. Becky was talking about this a little bit in our meditation today. They will run your life. These are just parts of the self that is here, the selves, the cast, the roommates in your house. Sometimes you may want to kick your roommates out. But it's your house. You have to find the room for them. Everything within us is part of us. We've been doing a talk, the schizophrenic party. We've been doing a talk from the beginning of the year about the emotional body. I never left. This is a continuation of that series. I'm just quitting calling it a series, because every time I say series, I get broken up in the middle. But last week we talked about intimacy and intimacy. And this is the biggest part of us that prevents us from being intimate with each other. It's our shadow side, the evil thoughts. Are they really evil? What's the next line there? Evil thought, terror, and fright. Remember, shadow is cast from the light. We've all been little kids. We've all been ticked off when we didn't get our way. And we know what the dialogue was on the inside. I remember being mad at my parents. Anybody ever here been mad at their parents? You remember the crazy stuff you thought inside about them? and them going away, or something happening to them, or even we're afraid of these thoughts. We're afraid that if we think of them, they're going to come true. And yes, we are in a create your own reality universe, and thank God is all that is. That there's a buffer zone to prevent us from totally screwing up our lives with our creation. Because thought does create, absolutely. The Buddha says it, many people have said it, Jesus has taught this. But there's a little bit of a buffer zone. So every time you think a thought, it doesn't just slam you. Otherwise, our shadow side would have ended our life the moment we had a thought. Because I know, Spirit must have known I was going to do a shadow side talk, because every possible fear that could have come on me has been on me for the past month. So, and a lot of it has got to do with my health. But golly, my creative, in my shadow side, and the possibilities that can come up seem to always be the negative ones. The worst possible thing that could ever happen to me is manifested through my inner brain that wants to tell me all the crap that can happen. And it wants to punish me, it wants to tell me how everybody's evil and is out to get me. The paranoid part of me is part of my shadow side. I will own him as for who he is. But, and again, it served me, it serves a purpose, it keeps me protected. I have to own that. If I were to defend myself right now, and I had to do it physically, if we're in a place where I had to defend myself physically right now, it's not going to be the puppies and rainbows guy doing it. It's going to be the shadow side of me that steps up to the plate and says, I got this one. I've been waiting the whole life just in case we needed it, and here I am. And my prayers, my whole life, is that he'll never be needed to protect another human being, myself included, because I'm more apt to take the hit for me, but I'll be more there to protect the persons outside of me, the children, the people. That's just how it's set up in me, and good or bad, right or wrong, that's just how it's set up in me, and I know myself. But I had to play some music in that room and hang out there with the headphones and listen to everybody who wanted to talk, good, bad, and the ugly. But we're talking about the shadow side, so there's no good over there, right? That's just all bad and ugly. Exactly. Because it's the greatest part of me. There's a part of me that I have to own. It's a part of me that I have to embrace, I have to love, I have to know that is within me. And if I don't have it, I'm going to walk around out of bounds. I'm going to walk around as half of a person. Now, again, we're in a physical reality here. We all know that because we feel it. But in our metaphysical reality, we have these two sides of us that can be felt at any given point. It's going to keep us from each other if we're not willing to own the yucky. If I'm mad at you, and I talked about this last week, and I can't look you in the eye, I'm hiding. So when we do this with each other, sometimes it's fear, sometimes it's I'm mad at the person, where I know they're mad at me, and I can't look them in the eye. And it's like, why can't you look them in the eye? Are you afraid they'll see your shadow? Are you afraid they're going to see something that's not so pretty? Stay looking in everyone's eyes. The shadow of them and you can't get you if you're present with them. Because we are light bodies. We are here in a 3D universe. We are having a physical experience. And in that, the reality that we chose to be in is a dual reality, light and dark. Let's get away from good or bad. That's a judgment word. If you think about it, it's a biased word, good or bad. It is what it is. It just simply is what it is. But you can acknowledge and discern light or dark, but are we judging the dark as wrong? Remember, the shadow is cast from the light. There's someone over there. Scott, hit the lights for me. Por favor. Can you actually turn that off behind me now? So, all the way back here. You can only negotiate this room so much. So what do you see behind me? Shadow. Big one. Is it scary?
No.
Well, what about this? What happens when I get closer?
Scary.
So when I get closer to the light, my shadow side gets bigger. What? What are you saying to me? The closer I get to the light, the bigger my shadow is? What if I get out of the way? Where's the shadow? Okay, well, don't look at the cord.
So is the light.
There's no light. I mean, it's not in the light. You're not in the light.
I can't do shadow puppets. But if I interrupt any one of these things, okay, here's a shadow. Is there a shadow there now?
No.
Is there a shadow there again?
Yes.
Okay, you can turn the regular lights on if you want.
The shadow.
Oh! I'm like, do I look like a troll? That's okay. Ogre. But my point is this. Did you notice how, as I got closer to the light, my shadow got bigger? So I'm going to tell you this, everybody. As you get more and more enlightened, as you work on yourself more and more, as you get closer to the light, your shadow side's going to get bigger. You're going to have more doubts coming in. Philip, can you give me just a little volume? So, eat this. Your shadow side's going to get bigger because you're standing closer and closer to the light. Okay? Breathe into this and own this fact. That when we here take a journey and say we want to be enlightened, we want to be the ones who know, we want to be the ones who pave the way for the next person, don't you dare think for 1 minute that fear's not going to try to get in your way to stop you. Becky said it in meditation today. I was going to say it, I'm going to say it again. 2 emotions in the world, in the universe, fear and love. Fear is trying to get where love is going and block it. So when you get closer to the light, those shadow sides of yourself are going to try to block that aspect of you. They're going to try to get bigger, louder, scarier than they've ever been before. Because they want to deny you the love. They want to deny you from looking in each other's eyes. Because if I stay here, fear cannot get in the way of us. If I just stay and melt in these eyes, fear can't get in us. And if we look away for a second, fear tried to, but we look right back. And only love is there. Only love is here. Only love is here. No more fear. And the closer I get to the light, the more fear wants to just jump on my ass and say no. And I'm saying no back. I'm saying, you know what? I have a lot of people in my life that are loving me. What are you trying to tell me that I'm alone for? I have a lot of people in my life that are giving to me. What are you trying to tell me that I have nothing for? I have a lot of people that want to hug me. Why are you trying to tell me there's no affection in my life? Sometimes this shadow side of me will lie to me. But it's a mechanism that I have to keep here. I have to own this side of me. I have to know that it is what kept me alive on a planet when I was just a primal being, and that this mechanism will protect me if I need it to. But I create love around me. I created a world of loving people, so I believe that my reality will be peaceful. So how is my shadow side serving me? How many here, raise your hands, if you're an empathetic person? How has that been working for you so far? And I hate Dr. Phil stuff, but I'm going to steal the line. Apathy. Anybody ever heard of that word? Guess where apathy lives? Guess what side? Shadow side. Thank you, apathy. Thank you, Spirit, for creating apathy for me, because I've been such a codependent, empathetic person that I've gotten so stuck in other people's stuff that I've become overwhelmed. So Spirit set this little thing up called apathy in your body, and it's called a break. It's called a break in the shade. Let's go back to the meadow for a minute. We're in a summer meadow, it's hot, and the sun is shining down, casting a shadow on a humongous tree that makes this big shade spot, or a shadow, on the meadow. And I've just sat there, and I've cooled off for just a little bit. Nothing evil happened there. Actually, I contemplated all day and went within. We are in a 3D world, folks. Sometimes, if I get too close to the light, I'm going to burn myself. I'm in a physical body. And Philip's like, man, really quit moving around. The light's not going to hurt our spirit body. The light will never overwhelm our energy, our source, our essence. But we're in a physical 3D world. We can only get so close to the light in this body. But we can beam the light from within. Not going to hurt there. Do you know something else that happens when you get so close to the light? If you have light shining from all around you, there's no shadow anymore. It washes it all out. So sometimes when we're looking at our shadow side, we have to pay attention to what direction it's coming from. When I walked past that building and the light came from my left and cast my shadow on the right, sometimes that could be a barometer for where you are in your life. Look inside. It's always an inside job. We're always going to go inside and do the work. But if I'm going inside and trying to see where the shadow in me is it north, south, east, or west? It'll let you know who you're processing, what you're processing. But if I can stand in the middle and have the light from every one of those directions shining at me, my shadow gets washed away. And that will happen when I cross over. Now, if I hit nirvana on this lifetime, I can get closer and closer to my center. I can reduce my shadow more and more and more by standing more and more in my center and letting the light from every direction in me shine inward. But right now, it's okay to be walking in this 3D world and knowing that the light generally comes from in front of me and casts a shadow. That I'm walking in a physical world, that I know it's going to cast a shadow, and that if I get too close, it's going to burn me. It's only for the physical. This is only for the physical. This is a dual reality on purpose. This is why the shadow and the light was made, for us to understand. When we cross over, we're not going to have any eyeballs. Just, I don't mean to scare anybody. So we're not going to see the light like we see the light. It's not going to be light like that, even though it's light and pure ones and zeros and energy. That's all we are. And energy doesn't end, it just changes form, and we know that. We know that from the fun song that Becky sings all the time with the molecules, and I use that lesson all the time. How do I know that I'm not completely all of you and you guys are completely all of me? Our molecules shed bazillion times a day. We truly are part of everything. And while we're in this 3D world, we know that there's physical things. We know that the sun comes up every day. We know that it casts shadows all the time. We know that the dark side of the moon is simply the shadow side of the moon. It's not the evil side of the moon. Do evil things happen there? Well, I don't know. I haven't been there, but from what I see, it's just the other side. It's just the absence of light reflecting in the moment. It's nothing to be afraid of. It's nothing to feel wrong about. Remember, when the apathy gift is given, it's a moment in the shade in your own meadow so that you can take a little bit of a break and breathe. Sometimes cool off a little bit. Because if you're a light worker and standing in the light doing stuff all the time, it gets hot. And that's okay. That's why I wear tank tops. You're allowed to give yourself time in the shade. Now, if you sit there in the shade and never go back into the light, you can get stuck there just as much. Apathy, when stuck there, starts to suck. Because when people get stuck in apathy so long, that's where the brain chemistry gets out of whack. And unfortunately, some of our brothers and sisters that have been born into this 3D world have exercised only the shadow side and have done horrific things in this world. Like I said to begin with, if it's been thought, it's been done by human beings in this world. There's been some horrific things done since the dawn of time. Don't think that people are bad. Don't think that people are good. People are both. We are both. But we're saying we want to evolve. We're saying we want to go towards the light. Okay, just again remember, the more you go towards the light, the more you're going to be, if you want to call it, tested by your shadow side. Just to see if you're willing to own it. I don't want to kill anybody in the world. I have no wanting in my body to end another human's life. But boy, did I hear those voices last week when I felt like I was being extorted from with the doctors, saying, no, we're not going to do crap for you until you pay us. I'm like, what? I felt like I got drawn on and I wanted to draw back. It's a good thing I don't own guns. Because sometimes I think people who do that kind of stuff have weapons that don't have a centered self in them, would go off the deep end and use that gun when their shadow side took over and they didn't have a chance to come back to their center and just breathe for a moment. We are allowed to have a bad thought. We're allowed to have a negative thought. We're allowed to have a hateful thought. Hang out there and live there, watch what it does. It will eat away at you, eat away at you, eat away at you. It's about balance. If I don't give myself a break and I'm so caring and empathetic, I will not be there for you. I can't. It would be impossible. If I'm overwhelmed, my cup of water will only fit so much water in it. If I try to keep filling it up, I'm going to make a mess all over the place. And you may be the one walking by and slip in my mess. So I can't always save the world if I haven't given myself a breather. I can't be there for you if I'm not here for me. So if I've been there for everybody else so much that I'm overwhelmed, I'm not serving you anymore. I've done nothing for you. You walk away going, oh gosh, last week he was all right, but today he didn't really do anything for me. It's because I'm overwhelmed, I'm done, I'm full. I need to step over here for but a moment. Just a moment and breathe and say, this is a hard one, I don't care. Have anybody of you ever given yourself permission to say I don't care? Usually comes with guilt, doesn't it? Yeah, you've all been trained very well to be Catholic. There's a lot of Catholicism in the wonderful joy of the faith. I learned a lot of guilt in it. And I play with it a little bit because it's still a wonderful celebration of faith for those in that faith. Minus the guilt. Because it's a mechanism that we go inside to beat ourselves up, to make ourselves wrong all the time. It's another place for our shadow to stop us from actually owning the shadow. It's like, what? Yeah, fear's like, what? He's going to come and do shadow work? I got to mess this up as much as I can and make him think nothing but evil lives here. Then he won't want to come hang here anymore. Definitely not do it like shadow drumming workshop or anything like that. Oh, by the way, we're going to be doing a shadow drumming workshop soon. To help you guys get down into that. It's going to be something done like 3 in the morning too, to really help us get into the spirit of that side of ourselves. I wanted to do it on Halloween night, but we went to the Nine Inch Nails concert instead. So, good for us. And I invite you, whenever we do that, to come and play there, or to play there by yourself or with a friend in a good way. Last week I had us looking into each other's eyes. First, it started with the mirror, because that's where the love has to happen first, with self. If you want to see God, go look in the mirror. And if you still can't see them, then look at each other. Now, I'm not going to make you like scream at each other or anything today, unless you want to. No, all right. But I do invite this. How many people here in this room yell, scream? No? Do you let you giving yourself permission for a primal scream? Just a primal scream. Something that comes from here. Because, I was actually talking to Rev Siggy last week, and we were just talking about this stuff in this. And how sometimes in us, we just want to scream! Ah! At the top of our lungs. And that was nothing. That was nothing. That was a baby primal scream. We're so afraid of making noise. I've been so afraid of making noise in this world, and my shadow side is like, got him! Because if I keep him quiet, he's never going to tell how he feels. He's not going to shout out his pain or his love. We'll just keep him shy and quiet. Yes, conform, Mark. Don't make noise. Well, Robbie Robertson is one of my favorite. He's actually the band. The band. He's one of the players in the band. And he's Native American. So Robbie Robertson and the Red Road Ensemble have a song called Making a Noise in This World. Now, Scott's my brother for 22 years now, going on 23. Never had a problem in my relationship with him. I've never seen him have a problem making noise. Any kind of noise, from any orifice. Thing is what it is. But I was quiet. I wasn't a hooter and a hollerer, and sometimes I'm still quiet. I like having my Zen experiences when I do certain things, but I couldn't make a noise. I couldn't get loud in the world. I can, physically. I can yell real loud. I can pretty much yell as loud as he can. It took me doing workshops and leading them and being in a workshop for somebody else. It took me helping them to get loud. Because, well, now I have a reason to make a noise. And to heck with anybody who's going to stop me from helping this little kid get better, even though they were in an adult body. But when it came to just making a noise in the world, I had a hard time with it. So the song, Making a Noise in This World, it's got its ringtone. Because that's one of the lessons and gifts that my brother gave to me, is being able to yell and scream in life, even out in public, and hey! I yelled in public and stuff. Why not? The one time I did, long time ago, I got in an argument with my ex-fiance. We were riding mopeds in the Keys, whatever, yelling at each other. And I got threatened to be arrested for yelling. I'm thinking, I wasn't doing anything. Well, Spirit knew I was processing this, making a noise in the world, and it wanted to test me and see if I was going to stop making a noise, because this one cop told me to stop making a noise. Well, in the moment, I lowered my voice, and we rode off in the distance in our mopeds and talked a little calmer. But it was more of an affirmation for me that I'm allowed to make a noise in this world, and arrest me for making a noise then. Because if I get too quiet, my shadow side's going to win. If I sit there and shut it up because I'm afraid of the noise it's making, I'm the one who loses out. I need the duality of me. I want the duality of me. I need the duality of me. I say need very loosely, very few and seldom times in my world. Because need means if you don't got it, you'll die. Well, I need the other half of me or I will die. I can't walk around being airy-fairy and all puppies and rainbows all the time. It's not the truth of who I am. It's not the truth of who I am. It is not the truth of who I am. Please don't ever think that I am some holy, perfect person. Because I will, if you do that, I'm going to fall so hard, I'm going to crack my skull. Please don't do that to me. I won't do it to you if you don't do it to me. If we lift each other up so high that when we do something on our shadow side makes us fall down from that pedestal, then I can't be here for anybody because I've got broken legs. Let us all just walk on the earth, be human with each other, own that if I own this wonderful part of me, it's okay to describe, that if I own the dove, if I own the wolf, that the dove is going to come flying out all the time. The wolf is a good part of me. It's a teacher. It knows how to be with people. They run in packs. Very few, that lone wolf thing, that's really very few. They're really family-oriented people. But get close to one of their family, they'll rip your face off. They have big teeth to protect you. Own the inner wolf. Can't be a victim in your life if you own the wolf. Nobody can hurt you if you own the wolf. And if somebody's coming at you, you just own that wolf and look at them with wolf eyes. You don't have to bite. You don't even have to growl. Just look at them. They'll get it. They'll go away. And then 2 seconds later, let the dove fly right out of your heart because you owned the wolf so that you didn't have to fight. You owned that wolf inside so that you could stay true to your heart and be a peaceful person in this world. Disowning the wolf doesn't keep you at peace. It gets you beat up. You need both sides. There's an internal mechanism that has protected you your whole life. Call it the wolf, call it the bear, call it whatever you want. For this moment, we're calling it the wolf and the dove. But it's for you to go within and discover what that shadow side looks like for you. How it served you in your life. And when it disserves you, to look inside and say, wow, I'm not owning this, it's owning me. Find who you're safe with to go talk to. Listen to what your shadow side is telling you. This way will never own you. It will be your pal. It'll be your buddy. It'll be your friend. It'll be the other half of the truest part of you. Thank you. You know what I'm talking about.
Made a wrong turn once or twice, dug my way out, blood and fight bad decisions, that's alright. Welcome to my silly life. Mistreated, misplaced, misunderstood, no way it's all good. It didn't slow me down. Mistaken, always second guessing, underestimated. Look, I'm still around. Pretty, pretty please, don't you ever feel like you're less than perfect. Pretty, pretty please, if you ever feel like you're nothing, you are perfect to me. You're so mean, when you talk about yourself, you were wrong. Change the voices in your head, make them like you instead. So complicated, look happy you'll make it, filled with so much hatred, such a tired game. It's enough, I've done all I can think of, chased down all my demons, I'll see you do the same. Pretty, pretty please, don't you ever feel like you're less than perfect. Pretty, pretty please, if you ever feel like you're nothing, you are perfect to me. Hold scared, so I follow the fear. Can't let it go, so I keep it near. So cool and lying, and we try, but we try too hard. It's a waste of my time. Done looking for critics, 'cause they're everywhere. They don't like my jeans, they don't get my hair. They strange yourselves, and we do it all the time. And why do we do that? Why do I do that? Why do I do that? Yeah! Oh, pretty, 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 pretty. Please, don't you ever feel like you're less than perfect. Pretty, please, if you ever feel like you're nothing, you are perfect to me.
Bless all